Okay, in our first little lecture, we're going to talk about a little bit about what accounting is and why it's important to us. You need to put away maybe some preconceived notions you have about what accounting is. You know, everybody thinks about the guy that does my taxes and all those kind of things. There's really much more to it than that, and that's different than what we're going to be studying this particular quarter. What we're going to be looking at is how information, or how businesses provide information to the people that care about that information. We're an information system, right? And if you think about what a system is, a system has inputs, right? It has inputs that it goes into some process, right? And then there are outputs, right? That's an information, or that's a system in general, right? So we take inputs and it goes through the process, through some system that we have, right? And then we have outputs. If you look at how that applies to accounting, we take the inputs, which is what? Some transaction happens, some transaction or event happens, right? And then we have this process of recording it, and we do all these little magic things in this process, and we output these things called financial statements, right? Which is really a way of reporting the financial performance of a business, right? So we're really measuring how well this business does, and we are communicating that to the people that care about that information, right? So accounting is an information system, right? And if you think about what happens when it fails, you go back to the early 2000s when we had all the issues with Enron and WorldCom and some of those kind of things. There were a lot of failures in accounting in that particular process because there was the outputs, there was no credibility to the outputs. So what we do matters, right? It's a huge thing. Let's talk a little bit about who this matters to, right? So we're going to talk about the users of financial information, right? And this little slide talks about what? People outside the business and inside the business, okay? Before we get to that, accounting is what? The language of business. It's the way that we communicate, right? This is that system that we were just talking about. So it's the way that we communicate information in the language that we communicate it in. Now when we think about accounting, we are serving two masters, really, right? We have these external users, right? Because who cares about financial information? Well, outside the company, right? Does my banker care about my financial information? Well, absolutely he does. Shareholders, they want to return on their money. Government, well, the IRS is quite interested in how much money that you make, right? And we have to keep external auditors happy, and customers and consumer groups, right? So those external users. Inside the company, we have the decision makers, right? The officers and managers and the salespeople and all of those kind of folks. What we're going to really focus on this quarter is how we prepare information for these external users, right? The people outside of our company that are going to be using this accounting information, right? So we're going to be teaching you this system, right? The system to prepare financial statements to communicate to these external users, right? So we have that little piece of business. Now, how we put these together, it matters, right? Because we want information that's trustworthy, right? If we're looking at the financial statements of a company, we want to know that they're what? That they are relevant, right? That they're bringing in all the relevant information. That they're reliable, so that there's some consistency and some process to how they're put together, and comparable. So if I'm going to compare Apple and Microsoft, I can put their financial statements side by side, and they would be user comparable. I can compare one to the other, right? The way that we do this is by preparing our financial statements according to generally accepted accounting principles, right? GAAP. You're going to hear me talk about that an awful lot throughout this quarter. That's what we're teaching you. We're teaching you generally accepted accounting principles, right? Generally accepted accounting principles. And again, going back to where we were, those are the rules, right? Those are the rules that we apply to this process on how we communicate this information to the people that care about it, to both our internal stakeholders and our external stakeholders, right? So that's the first little bit of information that you can take away from this. There we go.